Certainly, our product teams absolutely operate on an agile schedule. But secondly, we really take a lead from our customers. So when customers are talking about this works, but I want to move here, or these are the trends that we're seeing in our industry, that's actually our cue to innovate in that direction. Sometimes we do it that way. Sometimes we actually also co-develop with customers. So a customer may say, according to the normal set of products or software that you have available and where the roadmap can go, that's still not going to be quite what I want. I want to innovate for something very specific to our industry, but I want a technology partner to work with us. Can you do that? And the answer is absolutely yes. So I think when you're thinking about providers that provide innovation, yes, there's definitely this is what the majority of the industry needs. 80% of it will be covered off as a standard off-the-shelf product, with maybe 10% of configuration required, because everybody does things a little bit differently depending on their processes and practices. You have to allow for that. But there's also co-development possibilities for almost any industry, and GE certainly takes advantage of that.
Sam, how is innovation going in Rheinmetall, the agile way?
Yeah, of course. I mean, the first thing that we have done throughout this year, so not only because my company, Rheinmetall, as a group, we are a security and mobility. So I'm in the mobility automotive business, but as a group, we identified 5 technology clusters that we are focusing on to that. So that's one thing, from AI and digitalization to electrification. And the second one also is this NEO team, what we are doing, and of course is like creating an environment, a platform for ideas to come to the surface, and go to the market. So rather than testing our ideas in the meeting rooms, that the usual way, especially traditionally, we go to the market, we talk to different companies and customers and partners, and so we are taking it, like really doing it in an agile way, fast, so we could get the best, out of the market. And also something more important than is that even we are an automotive supplier, tier 1, we also look into the consumers, and we try to translate the trends into technologies which can be useful for our customers. So it's like being proactive in that sense.
How much is the German government helping you with this, or how much are they blocking you?
I mean, it's not the government itself, but also like if you look, I mean, it's the culture and the mindset. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, in Germany, still you have to pay everywhere the payment in cash. So among industrial companies is one of the country with the highest flow of cash. So, I mean, when it comes to digitalization, that's actually a big problem. This is also one of our focus, and also the same with the talent. So that's another aspect, as a company that many German companies are struggling with.
Because I was asking for the government, because they're setting aside huge funds to support innovation, to support all sorts of developments. And then, you've got on the other side the slight resistance on the consumer sides. I wonder where all those funds are going in Germany.
I mean, in Germany and across Europe, there are, of course, funds. So I was just beginning of this week, I was in Slovenia in a micro-mobility conference, and I was talking to the EU Transport Commissioner. And so in the EU Commission, for instance, there were, of course, available funds. Also in Germany, what is important for the companies is not so much the funding. I think they can find it somehow. Is finding the right partner and also, the right network and platform, and then start it.
I will ask Wyhndam the question, or rather macro question on the Turkish automotive industry, and then the same question for our 2 other speakers. And Wyhndam's time to answer will give you a little bit of time to prepare, because I give you credit for not being out of the Turkish market, and it's a complex market, so you can maybe collect your thoughts on that, but it would be certainly interesting to hear this from you as well. But I'm wondering, what can a strong automotive supply and manufacturing industry like the Turkish one do to stabilize business in what's obviously very, very turbulent weather ahead? How do you see it from inside Wyhndam? Are we prepared for the storm that's coming from different tariffs, political developments? How is the Turkish automotive industry bracing for this?
Turkish economy industry is actually quite strong. It is one of the biggest employer of our economy. So it does get a lot of incentives from the government. The Turkish government has been quite supportive of the sector and is actually keeping to be supportive. In that way, there may be some demands on the Turkish government to lower some of the taxes locally. But also, as you know and as you have witnessed, as we all have witnessed with the Volkswagen deal, the government has been actively negotiating to bring investment into Turkey. So, in a way, the Turkish automotive sector can renew itself a little bit more with digitalization, increasing productivity. It's just a little bit of more vigor in compliance issues and so forth, and can prepare itself for the storm, so to speak. But overall, I believe our automotive industry will survive any storm that may come along, and it has done for so many years. But with China and America, we really are on the edge. We really don't know what's going to happen. But we have to be agile and keep out for the opportunities, look out for them, pursue them, bring them into our own country as much as we can. But structurally, I believe there may be some consolidations, maybe some purchases, some acquisitions in the sector to just kind of gather towards stormy weather.
You see the Turkish economy resilient, I mean really strong on this stance?
I wish I could say that, unfortunately. I cannot say that our economy has proved to be resilient. I mean, we can say that for sure, anyone can say that. But we just don't know what's around the corner. And I believe that some of our global leaders have made it very difficult, actually, to predict.
Yes, excuse me. Kimberly, is that your first time here in Turkey? No, you've been here.
No, I've been here before.
You've been here before. What do you think?
I think there's no reason why Turkey can't move through the rough weather that will come ahead. No country can predict what will happen in its future. I mean, look at China, the US, and the UK at the moment. Did anyone think that was going to happen 2 years ago? No. So you never know what's coming. Things that do help, though, are a strong government who state goals in terms of what they want to achieve in a particular industry. And that will certainly help, because the way that humans process information and become used to an idea over time is to hear about it well in advance, hear both sides of the argument, and have time to move towards that in terms of comfort level. And so if you are going towards a strong automotive culture and manufacturing your own cars here, and I see no reason why you can't do that, it's good for the government to say, this is our long-term goal. We will achieve this, hopefully, over the next, several years. Here's the steps that we're taking, and here's where we want to end up by end goal of this year. Once everybody knows that and it's publicly stated, slowly you start moving the consumer set from imported cars to homemade, homegrown cars instead. And the same for something like autonomous technology. I think the guidance comes from the government, give people enough time to adjust. That way, despite the bumps that happen through the economy, it's not a fad that the government is putting or something to try to put a plaster or a band-aid on it. It's a long-term strategy to enable an industry that supports a lot of jobs, security, etc. There can be a lot of long-term planning that helps you overcome those bumps.
Asim, not your first time to Turkey either, I assume?
No, not the first time. Yeah. So what I see, of course, the economic stability should be the first, for the government, and also digitalization, I think, is quite very important. And if these two things go together, of course, then it could become like an interesting hub, because geographically Turkey is very well suited between Asia and Europe. So what I see as threat could be digitalization.
Apologies for that. I would like to spend just a few minutes on partnerships. Obviously, Turkey has been an important partner for the automotive industry globally. Çiğdem, those persistent tariff threats change the way manufacturers operate and purchase. What's in it for new supplier markets? Is somebody threatening Turkey? You know, is somebody threatening the supplier markets to replace or to go totally new ways? How do you see the movements within the supplier chain?
I mean, it has been such a constant threat over the years. I don't see it disappearing or going away anytime soon. But I'm confident that there will be new ways, and then the Turkish automotive sector will eventually adapt to it.
Kasem, partnerships and redefinition in the value chain. How do you see the development there, not only for Turkey but in general for all manufacturers and their suppliers?
I mean, the value chain, so the half of the future value chain is expected to be out of services, systems, data. So, like as an automotive supplier and also car manufacturer, they need to redefine the way they see themselves in the future. And that doesn't mean necessarily to do something new, but it's really to say, okay, I know everyone going to go there, so there's some space here, I will stay, or I'll move into something new. But of course, this car becoming a platform for content consumption, that's going to change the whole thing. And that's why it's very important to look into this value chain, from a strategic point of view.
You've been both to Turkey, Kimberly and Kasem, but I'm sure you've noticed also the immense startup scene that Turkey is having, particularly in the mobility and commercial fields. We will be hearing about that in the sessions throughout the day today. We will meet some very interesting e-commerce models. There is a huge Startup Istanbul conference starting tomorrow, bringing thousands of people to Istanbul to talk about the startup. How to start a business and how to develop your business. What is GE doing? Not only the digital part, but maybe GE as a global corporation